If you're watching this video, I wonder if you've been struggling with some emotions for the past few hours that you really can't put your finger on, like what is the reason you're feeling this way? And you may have been asking yourself, why? Why do I feel this way right now? Is it that I didn't get enough sleep, or is it that I am still feeling it from the argument I was in with my partner earlier, or is it that you got in trouble at work or something like that? And so many people ask these questions every day, and unfortunately, they are not able to come to a solution. And the problem with this is actually the fact that you're asking why at all. It's a little strange, but actually, we can get a lot more out of emotional processing if we really focus on the what and the how, more so than the why. So, I don't know, have you ever experienced this where you're thinking about why do I feel this way, and then you find that you just start thinking about other terrible things because those could be possible reasons you're feeling the way you're feeling, but you're recounting those things you'd rather not think about, and maybe you start thinking about other stressful things, and then you start to feel even worse. Maybe you start to feel overwhelmed, and that's part of the process, unfortunately, when we are so focused on figuring out why do I feel this way. And it's a really common thing that people experience, and I don't blame them, because if we're problem solvers or we're fixers, we can recognize what the problem is and then find a solution for it. Unfortunately, emotions don't work that way. Emotions are so much more complicated and complex, and often we really can't describe them. And when we try to rationalize or justify those emotions, that unfortunately doesn't really do it justice often. It can make it even worse. Though it's also, I can see why people do it too, for the fact of sometimes they have figured out why they feel a certain way, and that's helped them to move through that emotion. So, what I mean by what we can focus on more is the what's and the hows, is really focus on what do you actually feel in this moment, regardless of any reason, because those reasons really may not matter. Because, you can't really go back in the past, can you? Can you change what happened? In some ways, we might also think to the future, if there is a certain problem that's easy to fix, like if we just need to, for example, tell someone we are not going to be able to make it to the party tomorrow, but we're anxious about how they might take it, then it could be a matter of sending a quick text and then you feel relieved. But unfortunately, a lot of times emotions aren't that simple either. So what instead we could do is really focus in on what's happening right now, because right now in this moment is the only time that we can actually behave. That's the only time we can actually act. So when we focus on the what's, that again can be as simple as recognizing, what do I feel in this moment? And it might start from a place of I feel stressed. But we could probably go a little deeper with that. What does stressed mean? And this is where some practice with emotion words can come into play, where if you dive a little deeper, maybe you find that, I just feel really anxious and I feel worried and disappointed. So you can see how those are more specific words than stressed. And actually, just by being able to identify it, those specific emotion words, that actually can help us to move through those emotions. And not always. And that's the weird thing about emotions. Like I was saying, that we can't really fix them. And so I can't give you a skill and guarantee to you that it's going to work. And so you might be asking, what's the point of watching this video then? Well, I really am encouraging you to see if you can try something a little different, knowing that what you've been trying so far hasn't been working. So what I encourage you to do is to notice what you feel, and then taking it a step further to start looking at the hows. Notice how you feel it. And this may or may not mean that within the next minute you feel better. And I know that sounds strange, but this is the part of the process of moving through emotions. Think of an emotion as you're in a tunnel and you can maybe see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're moving towards that direction, but you're not there yet. you're still feeling that emotion, whether it's feeling sad, anxious, whatever it may be. And when we're able to really focus on those what's and how's and explore our own emotions, maybe even communicate those specific emotion words to a trusted person, like maybe we tell our partner that we feel really sad, then that moves us closer and closer and closer to the end of that tunnel. The light keeps getting brighter and bigger, and then eventually we come to a place where that emotion is no longer there. And the tricky thing about it is we can try to make that like our goal, our expectation, or like a coping skill in a sense. Like that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make ourselves or force ourselves get to the end of the tunnel. And unfortunately, that may not work very well either. So this is where I mean, this whole thing can be a little confusing. I totally get that. So one thing I will also tell you too, that is when you practice exploring your own emotions and exploring the what's and the how's, giving the why's a rest, that it also might make you feel worse. And that actually is not very surprising because you've been trying to avoid these emotions probably. One of the ways you might be trying to avoid them without you knowing it is by getting caught up in your thoughts, trying to think about why I feel this way. Some people are able to do that. They're able to think about that, well, if I, maybe because I didn't really fluff up my pillow last time, that's why my neck feels this way and I feel so tired and stressed, overwhelmed, that may be actually a way that some people avoid their emotions, believe it or not, just by thinking. And especially if someone describes themselves as an overthinker. I work with a lot of overthinkers, and I find that this is something that a lot of people do. So we can actually treat that as a cue to instead come back to the what's and the how's, noticing what you feel and how you feel it. So for example, right now, I feel content, and I notice like my shoulders feel really light. So you might ask, like, how do you practically do this? And really, it's just the way I did it just now, but you don't have to say it out loud unless you want to a person you trust, someone who's supportive, then you can say those things. You notice that, you might notice anyway, I didn't rationalize, I didn't justify, I didn't explain any of those emotions or sensations because they don't need to be explained. That's just part of human nature. We experience those things. So just know that you don't need to explain any of that because, unfortunately, all that does is just kind of keep you caught up in your thoughts and focusing on the whys sometimes, or trying to find fixes or solutions for it. But I encourage you to try this and see if that works for you, to see if you can let go of the why thoughts, like trying to figure out why I feel this way, and to let go of the potential solutions of like, how can I fix this? And instead, bring your attention to what you feel and how you feel it.